Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In today's video, I'm putting together Project Life for March 9th through March 15th, 2026, and I'm using products from my stash. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so this spread covers March 9th through 15th. And let's see here, I actually have a decent amount of photos. So if you've watched my recent videos, you know I said that I wasn't really taking many videos in the previous few weeks because I was really stressed and anxious and just going through a lot. And I finally kind of got through that going into this week. So at this point, I'm starting to feel better, not perfect. I ended up taking a sick day from work because I needed just a little bit more mental space and physical, but I just needed a break. And so I took a day off and then I rested, but then I was just starting to get a little bit better. And we finished our bathroom redo. So I have photos of that. And then I started in on my craft room closet redo. And if you have been following me on Instagram, I've been sharing some of that in my stories. If you've seen previously, I've been working on a craft room redo. Parts 1 and 2 are available on YouTube. Part 3 is my closet. And I am working on that right now. My craft room is still kind of in a state, but it is definitely been making some progress. So that is what these photos are about. And then I went to Marshall's and got another drawer here, which ended up going into my closet. You can see it there. And yeah, so that's it for the stories. As far as kits, I had originally planned to use the storyteller kit this week, the first storyteller kit, and do a repeated photo per day. I ended up not doing that because, like I said, I was going through kind of a hard time and I just wasn't in the headspace to do that. Plus, I knew I had my bathroom redo and my craft room redo though it was going to take over a lot of my photos. So I decided to move that to next month, and then I didn't have a kit for this one, so I'm going to do some stash busting. What I decided to do is I went over to my stash of Project Life cards, and I have a section in my Project Life card organizer for card sets. So these are cards that kind of go together. So like, for example, here's a set. Most of these are from Allie Edwards because she does a lot of these, if not all of them, where these ones kind of go together. And so I could use that. So I'm going to kind of go through here and select a set that I want to use. If you're interested more about my Project Life card organizer, I do have a video sharing my system. It is a little bit older, but my system's pretty much the same. I've added cards over time, but it hasn't really been redone in a long time. So that video is still very relevant. And if you want to see that, I'll link it in the description box below. So I think these ones could work. I'm going to put those. These ones, I really liked these with the vellum. And I was thinking at some point I would do these with like flip ups for 3 stories. I could do that for this week, but not sure if that's what I'm really feeling right now to do. I could do my craft room. That is actually, I was leaning towards these, but those are also good. So let's see here. We also have this saying yes, saying no. Another yes, no. And then these vellum ones. So I don't want to do any of these. So I'm going to put all of these ones back. And then get my take a note. So if you are new here, I use my take a note to keep track of all of my stories from the month, or from the week. I update this. I try to do it at least once a week and just document kind of what happened each day. And I have full flip throughs of this in my monthly journal and planner flip through videos. So I recently just shared February. So if you're interested, I'll link that one down below. So this has all of the stories that I want to tell. I'm going to put it off camera just because there's not a ton of space here. So if I use these, I've got 3 stories. If I use these, I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, for 5. So let me just make a list here. I'm gonna grab a pen. So I definitely have the story of our bathroom being done. And craft closet. What else happened? Let's see. Would say my sick day / recovery. And then I got lunch with a friend. And there are a few other just like mini things. It was warm. We had a little bit of spring weather. So I think I'm actually leaning towards these because I really have 3 kind of main stories, and then I'll do like a bullet point list. So to put one of these on this side, it's going to be a little bit harder because I'm going to have to cut a slit in the back. This is the back of the page protector to do a flip up, but I don't think I want them all over here. So I think I'm going to do this one is going to be about the bathroom between those. And then this one will be about my craft room. So I can put it there. And then this one can be about my mental health recovery. You know, I could put it at the top, and then I don't have to cut a slit. And then they can go like that. I feel like that might be a little too in a line. Maybe I'll put this one over here like that. Okay. So then I need something else for my stash. I need a title card. I need at least one journaling card for a list of things. And then I need some filler cards. So I'm gonna go over to my stash of Project Life cards and pull some things out to look through. So this is a collection of cards for multi-stories, and I kind of like that just to tell like 4 micro stories from the week. I think I could do that pretty easily there. Just looking to see if there's anything else. So let's see, I have the lunch with Michelle, spring weather, Marshall's trip, and I want to allude to the fact that I was still having a rough time. Okay, so I think that that's good 4 stories for that. Ooh, I also really like this card. Because, you know, I could put the rough week still in that sick day recovery. So I think actually I'm going to use that one and do that for the 3 stories I have. That looks like a Kelly Perky card probably, but I don't know. So I'm going to use that one. I like that color too. And then we need some filler cards. So let's look at... Okay, so these are specific themed filler cards, and I always want to go to my specific themed ones first, which basically means it has a theme, but doesn't match any of my categories. And so I'm going to just go through these quickly and see if any of them fit this spread and the stories I want to tell. Okay, so I picked a few different ones. This one I think is perfect because it is a very specific sentiment about change and taking action. And the colors work perfectly. So I think that's a perfect sentiment about starting this closet cleanup. Then I had these two. I really like this one from Cocoa Daisy, but it's this blue and there's this teal. So I think it doesn't really go. This one was potentially an option, but I decided against it because again, it's not really the colors I'm going for. And then I have these two yellow ones and I'm thinking one of them could work for a title card. I kind of like this one as a filler here and then this one as my title card, but I'm not sure about that one yet. So I'm going to leave those as options. I still have these two spots to fill. I'm going to go back to my stash and see what else I have to work with. Okay, so these are kind of the hard times journaling cards. I'm thinking maybe I could use one of these. So I'm just going to go through these quickly. I mean, I guess my rough week is really going to be my story here, but I'm going to look at these and see if anything is something I want. Okay, so we've got a few options here. So I pulled this card because I did take that sick day, and so I just took a day to craft and rest. And so I think I'm gonna add that and just write like craft on there. This one was gonna be about kind of like more journaling about what I did for my sick day, but I think, and just overall stress, but I think that this could be a good like pop from that. And then I like that one as a title. And then I had so many options here. These are all the right color scheme. And I'm thinking I might want to put, I was leaning towards this one. So pumpkin was a pain on Friday. I kind of threw off our whole day. And so I kind of just wanted to write a little bit about that, which was kind of like a setback in me kind of recovering from everything. So I'm thinking maybe I will do something there about that. I also liked some of these other cards for it. So I'm leaning towards that one, but I think I'm going to leave these ones out just in case and kind of work through this as my starting point. And I'm definitely going to need to bring some other like stash embellishments. I want to do some like larger stamping on some of these. I might rearrange where I want certain things to go. I think the only one I'm not fully committed to is this one though. So maybe I'm gonna go look in my stash again for some title cards. Okay, so I replaced that with this one. So I think that that is gonna work for a title card. I'll stamp my dates along the side. And I might end up like switching this one and this one. I'm not sure yet. But I'm gonna go ahead, I think, and put you guys on voiceover and get this one put together. Okay, so as usual, I'm gonna start with my title card, and I'm just gonna use a rolling date stamp and black stays on ink to add the dates on here. This is what I do in like 95% of my spreads for my title card, and I kind of like the uniformity across the spread. I do have one of those jumbo date stamps from Studio Calico from years ago, and I keep forgetting about it. So I want to try to remember to use that again pretty soon. I think 2026 might be the last year that it's good for. I can't remember. Maybe it has a couple more years. But at some point, it's not going to have the current year anymore. So I do definitely want to use it. So I'm moving on to these cards and I'm going to do some stamping. I pulled over this Alpha stamp set. This was part of the Week in the Life collection from Allie Edwards for 2026. So the one that just recently released, if you're watching this in real time. And I'm going to use the top Alpha set to do some stamping on a few of my cards in this spread. And I really enjoy having some smaller alphas. I love alpha stamping. I do alpha stamping all of the time, but a lot of the alpha stamp sets that I have are really large and they work great for titles and big words, but sometimes you just need a smaller one. So that's what I'm doing here. So what I decided to do was stamp a little bit on each of these little spots. So this card has 3 spots for stories. So I'm going to tell 3 micro stories from the week. If you have watched some of my Project Life spreads in the past, you know that I typically do a card that has some micro stories on it. And often it's a bullet point list. This week though, I'm just going to do this card with these 3 stories. And that is how I'm going to kind of identify those micro stories. I also have a few more journaling cards than usual. And I think this spread ends up with a little bit more journaling than usual because I have those flip up cards that are each full journal cards. So I think just having this card with 3 stories rather than a full bullet point list is really ideal. I also have the micro story about pumpkin being annoying on the card with the speech bubble. And so I'm stamping Ugh Pumpkin on there. And then on the All I Could Do Today, I'm stamping, I think, Craft and Rest. On that 3-story card, I just picked one word that was about the right length to put alongside the edge of the fake designed labels on there. And then I'm going to add just a couple words in each of those labels. So those stories are about going out for coffee with my friend on Friday from work and the first signs of spring really starting to pop up. And then a impromptu trip to Marshall's to get another Sismac drawer set for my craft room, and they had some. And then we picked up some other random things for the house. Those Sismac drawers, those are the ones that are in that photo right above the card with the 3 stories. And I love these drawers in my craft room. They're perfect for holding pens and embellishments. I specifically like them because they have really long drawers and the drawers are sturdy and they come with dividers and you can pull them out completely to work with them. They have these on Amazon, but they are fairly pricey. In my opinion, they're worth the price because they are really great quality and I haven't found anything else that kind of has the same size. However, the ones from, if you can find it at Marshall's, it is a fraction of the price. So I will link the Amazon one in the description box below so you can look at it and decide if that's ideal for you or if you think you can find one at a Marshall's store. I know quite a few people have found them there, which is why I decided to go hunt for one and I was lucky enough to find one. So I'm just doing my journaling in here and I'm using the Uniball one. It's a chunky little gel pen. It's a 0.38, which is typically not my pen, but not my favorite pen. I usually like a little bit of a thicker nib, but for this one, I really like the thin nib. It doesn't feel that thin. So I don't know. I highly recommend that pen if you're looking for a gel pen. So definitely I will link that in the description box below. And so now I'm moving on to these cards. So for these cards here, I am going to make them have a little bit of a flip up. So what I'm going to do is add some white washi tape to flip up that number and then the journaling will be hidden behind there. I did my journaling about pumpkin and then I'm rearranging these cards. I wanted the one about pumpkin over by the photo of pumpkin. It also happened on Friday and I tend to have my spreads kind of go chronological if I can. So this spread runs Monday through Sunday. So Friday was towards the end. So it just made more sense to be on the right hand side. So for these cards, I'm pulling out my white washi and this is just kind of a go-to basic in my stash. I use it all of the time and I'm going to create flip ups for these. And how that's going to work is the vellum piece is going to be outside the page protector and the journaling card is going to tuck into the page protector. And so you'll be able to flip it up and read the journaling underneath. But when you're looking at the spread, the journaling will be hidden, which gives me an opportunity to write a little bit more detail because it's not it's a little bit hidden. I know people can obviously flip it up and read it, so it's not like secret journaling, but it just changes the whole aesthetic of the spread, in my opinion. So I added the washi on the outside, and you should always start with the washi on the outside with your flip up closed so that you can make sure that your washi is going to have enough of a gap so that it will lay flat when it's closed. You can just do it on the outside. I decided to do it on the inside as well because that is going to make it a little sturdier. But when you put it on the inside, then it's not going to lay as flat when you fold it over. So I had to crease it, and you can see it's kind of starting to pop up again. So what I'm going to do is stick a paper clip on it just to kind of hold it down while I'm working on my spread, and that will kind of help train it to be folded and stay down. Now, it's not going to be perfect. They are going to pop up a little bit on their own on the spread, and you'll see that in the final photos that they're not perfectly laying flat, but they are close enough that it definitely still works. But if that bothers you, then I would say just add the washi tape on the outside and do it, how like I'm doing here where it's closed when you flip it over and add the washi, and then it's going to lay perfectly flat. So after I do the washi, I'm going to do my journaling on the inside of these. And to save my hand from writing all of this at once, I'm going to work on one and then I'll come back to the other ones in a little bit. But what I decided to do for the inside of these was add some stamping just with that same stamp set for a couple of reasons. So one, because these are big cards to fill up. I didn't have quite that much to say to fill a full 3x4 card. So I figured adding some stamping would fill up part of the card for me and I would have to write less. I also liked it because each of these cards is going to be focused on a story theme or a particular story. So having a stamped title kind of gives you a little bit of detail about what that story is going to be about before you read it. So if I'm flipping through this album in a couple of years and I want to read about my craft room closet redo, I can easily flip these up and just read the highlight of what it is and know which one I want to read. I also, if I'm flipping through the album and I don't want to do a lot of reading, I can get a very basic sense of what my journaling is about without actually reading the card by just reading the title. So that is something I like to do a lot in my scrapbooks to give you kind of a hint of what the story is going to be about. I actually do that in my daily journal a lot as well. I add large words because if I'm flipping through, I'm not necessarily going to read every single entry, but it's going to give me kind of the basic idea of what that page is going to be about. So I don't have to read everything to kind of remember what was going on at that time. As far as what I decided to stamp, I'm stamping Prioritize Self-Care on the first one. And that one's going to be about my sick day and just kind of trying to recover from the past few weeks and month and how I started feeling a lot better this week and just in general about that. This one is about my craft room closet cleanup and that process. And then the last one is about the bathroom update because we finally finished it. If you've been following along on Instagram, I do have those photos saved in a stories highlight. And I actually have a post with the full reveal on my Instagram, but I definitely was sharing about that as we did the process. I'm so happy with how it came out. If you saw it before, you remember how it looked. It was just plain white walls. So a little bit of background is I built my house I started in 2019, finished in 2020, and I did not do any real decor after I first moved in. Part of that was it was the pandemic and you couldn't really have people come work on the house. And then I went through a divorce and stuff. So there was just a lot going on and I didn't really spend a lot of time or money decorating most of my house. A few of the rooms I did, but I didn't do a lot of it. And there were a lot of rooms where the fixtures and everything were great because it was a new build, but the walls were plain white. There was no art, there was no decor. And so I've been slowly kind of going through and doing rooms. And so early this year, I was working on my bathroom, my ensuite bathroom, and it has completely transformed and I'm so happy with it. So next we're going to be working on the main part of the house. We're just going to get that painted professionally. So it's going to be like the entryway and the hall and the living room and kitchen, because I have a pretty open floor plan and I have a really high ceiling in my entryway. So I do not have the ability to paint it myself. So I'm super excited about that, and that's going to happen in April. So I took a break after journaling that second card to do some embellishing just to give my hand a little bit of a rest. So I'm pulling out some chipboard, and I have my chipboard organized in my drawers, and I have a video about that. And so I'll link that in the description box below, but I have them organized by categories. So I'm pulling out some categories that I think might work for the spread and adding some chipboard pieces. So when I'm looking for a chipboard piece to fit a card, I'm looking for something that has a shape and size that works with the photo that I want to put it on, a sentiment that works really well for that photo or story, and colors that match my spread. So that doesn't mean I'm always going to find something that works. And sometimes you do need to kind of compromise on one of those things, like the one that says spring cleaning. It is not the perfect yellow. I would have preferred it was a little bit more of like a mustard yellow to match the cards that are on the left-hand side of the spread, but it's not right next to them. And it says spring clean, and it is spring, and I am doing some cleaning, and it's such a specific sentiment, and it worked perfectly, other than the yellow is a little off, so I just made it work, and I'm super happy that I did. I pulled over some word phrase strips from my stash just to add a little something onto that card that talks about pumpkin being a pain, and I just wanted to add something on there just to personalize it a little bit. And then I'm doing the rest of my journaling here. I also added a word phrase strip in that third journaling card about my bathroom, and that was simply because I didn't really have enough to say to fill the entire card, so there was a little bit of gap at the bottom, and just to fill that and make it look intentional, I added a word phrase strip. And now I'm just going to go through a few more chipboard pieces and try to find ones that work. This photo here is of some Happy Mail that I got from a couple of shops. One is from the Coffee Monster Co. and one is my subscription from Everyday Explorers. And so I found that chipboard that says make, which is perfect for that because it's about crafting and the colors fit perfectly for this spread, and it's the same shape as the spring cleaning one, so it just balanced perfectly, and I was super happy with how that worked out. However, that doesn't mean that it's always going to work out that well. I pulled out my yellow chipboard pieces in hopes of finding one to go on that bathroom photo, and nothing really ended up working, which is totally fine. I just decided to skip it and not add anything else on. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and slip everything into the pockets. A few of the cards sometimes need to be trimmed to fit into the pockets, especially if it's a photo or something I cut myself, because it's not necessarily going to be perfect. And then I'm just slipping things in. As I slip them in, I'm doing kind of a final review to make sure I like where everything is. You can see how I'm slipping the flip ups into the pockets, and it is going to be a little bit, it's going to open on its own a little bit there because I put that washi on the inside, but I wanted that for sturdiness. And I think that once this lays in the album and the pages are closed on it for a while, it's going to hold it down enough that it really isn't going to open too much. On the left-hand side, because this is the back of a page protector, I had to put the flip up on the top row so that it could easily slip over the top. If you want to do this and you really want to put it in the middle, you can definitely do that. Just take an X-Acto knife and cut a slit for it to come through, and it will work as long as you just do it in one spot. I would recommend not doing it on the far end because then it will be at like the edge of the page protector and it might be a little weak. But if you do it in the middle column or the column along the holes, you shouldn't have any problems. Here's a look at that completed spread. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.